Returning to our top story now, it is the coronavirus and it is having quite an impact on the Australian economy. And joining us now to discuss is Treasurer Josh Frydenberg. Treasurer, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. I've just noticed on the Sydney Morning Herald this morning, virus emergency plan has been activated. The US overnight talking more disruptions. So it does seem to be worsening. Could it cause a recession in Australia?
Look, that's not the word that I would use. What I would say, though, is that the economic impact is very significant already, and of course the virus continues to evolve. It's just the latest economic shock that has faced the Australian economy, and it's a shock that's beyond our control. We've seen the trade tensions between US and China, we've seen the extended drought, we saw the fires, floods, and now the virus. I've just returned from the G20 meeting in Riyadh, where this was obviously the #1 topic, and the International Monetary Fund has assessed global growth in light of what has occurred. But we are going in to this situation in a much stronger position than many other countries. The Australian economy is remarkably resilient.
Well, SARS was uncontained for 8 months, though, Treasurer. So back to that original question, though. I mean, it's not the word you would use, but is it still possible? Recession, I mean.
Look, we'll wait and see what the December quarter numbers are. I get those next Wednesday. Then we will see what happens in the March quarter, which is where the virus would have the biggest impact. That won't be out till June. But there's no doubt it's having a significant impact across the economy. But as you know, we've taken precautionary measures to put the travel restrictions in place, and those travel restrictions have seen the number of people who have been infected with the virus be much smaller than in other nations.
What about a per capita recession?
Look, again, I'm not going to get into that territory. What I am going to say, though, is that the Australian economy is remarkably resilient. We've seen our labour market remain strong. We've seen the housing market stabilised. We have maintained our AAA credit rating. The Australian economy, according to the International Monetary Fund, will grow faster than the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Japan and Canada this year. And I do know that we've obviously done the work to ensure that the economy is in good health.
How much do you expect coronavirus to take off GDP?
I think it will take off more than the bushfires, and the bushfires have been assessed by the Reserve Bank and by Treasury as taking about 0.2 of a percentage point, and that's off both the December and the March quarters in a cumulative number. But in terms of the exact number, Treasury is still doing that work, and obviously the virus continues to evolve, and depending on how long the travel restrictions are in place and how the virus evolves globally, will obviously impact that final number.
Is 0.5% off the mark?
Look, I'm not going to speculate until I've got a final number from Treasury, and I've yet to receive that number.
Will there be a surplus this budget, Treasurer?
Well, as you know, the budget numbers are updated twice a year, prior to Christmas and then on budget night in May, so you'll have to turn on then. But I do know that this is going to hit the economy, and I do know that our focus has been, in relation to the fires and other shocks that we've faced, on getting the support to the community in need. That's been our primary focus, not the surplus.
If you were a betting man, what odds do you give yourself?
Well, my job is, as the Treasurer, to steer the economy and the nation through these pretty challenging times, and with the Prime Minister and my colleagues, I'll continue to do that.
There's no doubt that it is challenging times economically. A year ago, though, you did mention that you celebrated the fact that the budget was back in black. Do you regret saying that?
Well, the budget is in balance for the first time in 11 years. That's a significant achievement. No one can take that away from us.
In balance, though, not back in black.
Well, that's a significant achievement, because Australia is now living within its means, and we've done that while also cutting taxes, while also rolling out a 10-year, $100 billion infrastructure program, with, at the same time, of creating new apprentices and spending record amounts on schools and hospitals. So our fiscal management has been disciplined, it's been considered, it's producing results, and it's actually helped prepare Australia for what is a very challenging global health crisis.
Treasurer, just finally, Larry Fink from BlackRock mentioned this morning that perhaps companies should start to rethink supply chains and reliance on China. Do you agree with that?
Well, we obviously have a very close economic relationship with China. They take about a third of our exports, they're the number one source of students and tourists to this country. And I think those international supply chains have helped reduce the cost to the Australian consumer. That being said, we're always looking to expand our economic partnerships around the world. And just a few weeks ago, we celebrated a new free trade agreement with Indonesia, a country of 270 million people. So whether it's with China, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, this government has been absolutely committed to free trade, knowing that 1 in 5 Australian jobs are related to trade.
But doesn't this once again prove that we are perhaps over-reliant on China?
Look, I think what it does prove is how important China is to the global economy. China today is 4 times bigger economically than it was at the time of the SARS virus in 2003. Australia obviously has closer economic relations with China since that period, but that's created jobs here and it's also lifted people out of poverty in China. So it's been a win-win for Australia and for China.
OK, Treasurer Josh Frydenberg, really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.